Hey, everybody. I am Alec, the Director of Broadcasting at One True Promotion.
And I am Andrew, the COO of One True Promotion, and we're happy to have you here tonight.
Andrew, how are we doing tonight, my friend?
Hanging in there.
Hanging in there is right. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday night. Tonight, we are paying homage to one of our very own members. In 2019, Andrew and I founded One True Promotion to promote ourselves, our books, our dreams, but most of all, to give back to our fellow community of authors, artists, and more. But in 2020, the workload started multiplying. Andrew, you want to tell them a little bit about that workload? You remember.
Yeah, we started doing a lot of things for a lot of people. And when you start doing a lot of things for a lot of people, you need to start bringing people on.
More broadcasts, more projects, more promotions. It was a lot for just us two to take on. Fortunately, we weren't alone. We were joined then by our brand new arts and media director, a very talented author, artist, and filmmaker who goes by the name of Nicolas Georgel. I'm just kidding. It's Nicolas Georgel, to be accurate. Tonight is Nick's birthday celebration. I see that 3 people are watching already. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't met Nick yet, let's give you a brief introduction. Happy birthday, Nick. And that about sums it up, right? That is Nick. Nick has been our arts and media director for the past couple of years, and he is just, as it shows, right? An author, an artist, a filmmaker. Andrew, what can you say about Nick?
Very good stand-up guy.
He is a very good stand-up guy, isn't he? And oh my goodness, we've got quite a few people watching already. What's up, Anthony? What's up, Elise? Thank you for joining. How's it going? It's going all right. We are paying homage to one of our very own today. Now, one thing that I really appreciate about Nick, and we'll talk more and more about that as the night goes on, but I really appreciate Nick's very authentic writing style. And if you are interested in his one-of-a-kind series, The Death of Earth, we have a couple of surprises in store for you tonight. There's going to be some live readings to better acquaint you with the series, read by me and read by Andrew. And then later on, there's going to be a special giveaway. So if you are interested in a special giveaway, I do encourage you to stay on for the entirety of the stream. Stay on for the stream. You could be the next person to win a free copy, but Andrew knows we're not going to tell you how you can win it just yet. We'll tell you that there is a giveaway, but to get that giveaway, you're going to have to stay till, well, try staying another 10 minutes. For now, give us 10 minutes, and maybe we'll tell you how you can win that special book. But if we don't tell you in 10 minutes, we will surely tell you in 20 minutes. Or will we? Either way, my friends, the longer you watch this stream, you are definitely in the running to win one of these books. Okay, before I start reading, I got to address this comment. Remember when you kicked Jaden and Nick out of class? That was so funny. Yeah, maybe for you, buddy. Andrew and I are both teachers. Is it funny when we kick somebody out of class?
No.
Yeah, usually
there's an old rule. If we're not laughing, it's not funny.
Yeah, usually at that point, we are pretty much done. But I'm glad you had a good time. I did notice you were chuckling quite a bit in the corner over there. Thank you for not being the person that had to get kicked out. Okay, back to Nick. Nicolas Georgel is an amazing talent. Before we go into our readings, here's just another sampling of some of the many contributions he's brought to One True Promotion. Here's a short edit of one of his oldest videos he made for us for the Collingswood Book Festival. Very nice. Nicely done, Nick. And thank you again for bringing that level of engagement to our streams. All right. So I'm going to jump right in with my reading of the night, which is from Andrew. Let's see if you can guess what chapter I'm going to read.
Chapter 4.
Ooh, so close, so close. So I have a couple of favorites from The Death of Earth. One of them I think might be a little too spoiler heavy, and Nick knows that this is my favorite part of the book. But the other, he knows I'm a big fan of exposition. So I'm actually going to start on page 9, where Daichi is given a calling. So this is, for those of you who are wondering, The Death of Earth by Nicholas Georgel. Chapter 2, The Shadow of Death. Daichi opened the front door and stepped outside. The sky was clear, and the warmth of the morning sunlight washed over his face. At the front of the house was his garden, a perfect recreation of the one that had been destroyed in the fire. There were a wide variety of flowers, ranging from white lilies to cherry blossoms, purple wisteria, and starfish-shaped pink moss. Carrying a watering can, Daichi walked down the front steps and smiled at the colorful vegetation. His eyes fell upon a small group of bluebells near the front of the garden. Kneeling down, he grabbed a few by their stems and lowered his nose, whiffing their sweet scent, just like the ones that father used to grow, he said to himself. As he watered the garden, he noticed something lying in the dirt next to one of the lilies, something that was not supposed to be there. Seeing such a blemish ignited a fire within Daichi, causing his face to scrunch in irritation. He snatched it up and seethed, irritated at the sight of the hideous intruder that invaded his garden. It was a crumpled piece of paper. What the hell is this? He paced up and down the yard, grumbling to himself. I swear, whichever one of those neighbors had the nerve to litter on my garden, ooh, they're going to wish they hadn't. You know, Daichi, said a giggling voice nearby, it's just a piece of paper. Daichi turned around to a familiar sight. Izumi was standing on the pathway, waiting for him whilst being amused by his rant. Izumi was wearing her school uniform, which consisted of a dark jacket over a white-collared shirt and tie. Strands of her straight brown hair fluttered in the wind, and beneath her big brown eyes, Izumi covered her hand over the lower part of her face, hiding her giggling smile. You're funny when you're mad, she teased. Oh, really? Daichi teased back. Then it must be you who's the culprit, trying to get a laugh out of me, huh? Izumi walked up to Daichi and took the crumbled paper from his hand. Bingo, she said. Brilliant deduction, Detective Daichi. Daichi chuckled. Come on, hothead, said Izumi. Time for school. Daichi nodded and followed after her. For a while they walked quietly, taking in the ambience of the cityscape. I'm not a hothead, Daichi said seriously as they walked down the street. It's just that I care about what they left for me, you know? The insurance was able to cover the cost of rebuilding the house, and while that happened, I lived with my aunt Ritsuko. But I couldn't wait to come back here and make it feel like home again. When I was able to move back in, I remade Dad's garden from scratch. In fact, he taught me everything about horticulture. Daichi, Izumi interrupted. It's okay. I get it. Once the high school was in view, she changed the subject. So anyway, did you study for the test? Of course I did. He didn't actually study. Daichi sat at his desk and stared out the window, feeling sweaty in the stuffy classroom. He loosened his tie and grunted in his seat. He sighed and looked back out the window, thinking about the wisterias ready to sprout in his garden. His calm state of mind was suddenly interrupted when someone nudged him on the shoulder and said, You're going to fail this test. You know that, right? Daichi frowned and turned his head. It was his friend Yunano Tsubaki, whose sleek, shiny black hair covered his eyebrows as he raised them at Daichi. Yunano was a handsome young man of 17 who had an adorable face that all the girls loved, with his smooth jawline and sea-gray eyes, but what drew them in the most was the solemn expression which seemed permanently glued to his face. He sat back in his chair and smiled calmly while twirling a pencil between two fingers. Despite knowing Yunano was right, Daichi was still irritated by his comment. Says Mr. Overprepared, Daichi said to Yunano. I don't have to study as much as you do. Yunano shook his head. You said the same thing last time, he muttered. The door to the classroom opened, and the teacher walked in with the tests in her hands. The room quieted as she began passing them out. Once the test was placed on Daichi's desk, he seized his pencil and sat forward in his seat. Yunano underestimates my abilities. I'll pass this test easily. He opened his test to the first page. After glancing through the first few questions, he slammed his elbows on the desk and buried his face in his hands. Aha! Daichi said to himself quietly. I'm screwed. He looked around to see how everyone else was doing. Izumi seemed to be moving at a steady pace, and there was no uncertainty on Yunano's face whatsoever. Then his eyes fell on one particular student, Haruka Tsukino. To Daichi and perhaps everyone else in the school, Haruka was the most beautiful girl in Kurosaki High. An Asian European mix, she had a slender yet curvaceous body and a perfectly proportioned face. Daichi rested his chin in his hand and smiled, staring in awe at the beautiful young woman. He had been in the same class with Haruka for years, but he would never muster the courage to speak to her. He could never muster the courage to speak to her. He always admired her blue eyes, so calm and focused on what she was doing with precise attention to detail. But what he loved about her most was her hair. She had long, wavy blonde hair down to her hips, and whenever Daichi passed her in the hallways, he would always catch a whiff of its vanilla scent, like a breath of fresh air that lightened his mood every time. Suddenly, her blue eyes glanced in his direction. Daichi froze. He didn't expect her to look at him. In fact, this was the first time she ever acknowledged him. He tried to remain calm, but on the inside, he was panicking. She's looking at me. Haruka stopped writing. She placed down her pencil and turned her head, looking curiously at Daichi. He felt as though he should respond somehow. Quickly, he forced an awkward smile. Is she going to say something? But to his surprise, Haruka let out a soft giggle, blushed. Then she waved at him, smiling back. Daichi could not believe what was happening. After that, Haruka picked up her pencil and resumed her work, Daichi doing the same. However, his mind wasn't focused on the test anymore. Instead, he was rejoicing, feeling accomplished that he had finally made contact with the goddess known as Haruka Tsukino. It was the end of the day. Everyone filed out of the classrooms, and the students were grabbing their shoes from their lockers, ready to go home. As Yunano opened his locker, Daichi zoomed around the corner and tapped Yunano's shoulder. Yunano, guess what? I think Haruka was checking me out during the test. She waved at me. Haruka, said Yunano, as in Haruka Tsukino, the captain of the girls' swimming team? Yeah, said Daichi. I wouldn't read into it too hard. What do you mean? She's not your type. Yunano started walking toward the exit doors, but Daichi followed after him. Can you explain further? Daichi pressed. Yunano sighed. Look, Haruka has a lot of experience dating. You, not so much. And being on the basketball team, believe me, a lot of athletes are interested in her. No offense, but she probably isn't looking to date a plant nerd. Daichi frowned. What did you call me? He said, confronting Yunano with his chest puffed out. Yunano laughed. Botanist, gardener, florist. Sorry I didn't get my terms correct. What, are you interested in Haruka? Yunano stopped walking. Hey, I'm trying to help you, he said seriously. And no, I'm not interested in her. I have another potential interest. But if you want to try and go for Haruka, be my guest. So Yunano turned and walked out the door, leaving Daichi with more questions than answered. I mean, what did he mean by another potential interest? Ever since Daichi's encounter with Haruka during class, his mind was set. He was determined to meet with her in person, certain that her smile meant something. After traveling the different hallways, he found her alone at the lockers down the hallway, dressed in her gym clothes. As she bent over to put away her sneakers, Daichi averted his eyes and blushed. Now was his chance. Slowly, he approached her. But before he could say anything, she stood up straight, and her eyes met with Daichi's, smiling as if she were expecting him. Hey, Daichi, she said cutely. She kicked the locker door shut and walked over to him. Hey, Haruka, Daichi said awkwardly, scratching the back of his head. Can I ask you something? She said. Daichi trembled in his shoes. Sure, what is it? Well, I was out with my friends last night at this new karaoke bar, and on the rooftop there was this pergola which had these beautiful purple flowers hanging over us. I was telling Izumi about it yesterday, wondering whether I could do something like that with an arbor on my porch, and she said that you would be the best person to talk to. This was something Daichi had not expected from Haruka, but since horticulture was his wheelhouse of knowledge, he was no longer nervous. Well, he replied. Those sound like wisterias. Here in Japan, they bloom early in the summer, so you'd want to set up the plants a few weeks ahead of time. If you decide to use an arbor, you'd want to plant them at the legs, so they have a pathway to grow up. But you have to make sure their growth pattern doesn't become too chaotic to manage. Does that make sense? I think so, said Haruka. I love all kinds of flowers, but I'll admit I never really dabbled with gardening. Am I in over my head getting into this? No! I mean, it can be a lot of work, but with a simple arbor, I think you can manage. The only trick is that it may need some frequent tending to. But once all's said and done, I think the results will be totally worth it. I think you can make your porch look amazing. Haruka smiled and inched closer to Daichi. Thanks, she said. Maybe you could help. I was wondering if you wanted to join me at the karaoke bar tonight. We could have a fun time while you pick out the best wisterias. Daichi was ecstatic. He didn't think she would be the one to ask him out. Sure, he said. So it's a date then? Haruka looked at him quizzically. Well, no. I meant if you wanted to join me and my friends. We plan to go there tonight. Daichi looked away. Forget it then, he said quietly. Excuse me, she said with an annoyed tone. Daichi crossed his arms and turned around. You know what? Daichi continued, raising his voice. Figure it out yourself. All the cutesy waving during the test, what the heck was that about? I appreciate you coming to me for advice, but I'm not just the local florist. Of course I thought you meant a date. Daichi stopped talking. When he turned back around, Haruko was gone. If you are listening, friends, keep listening, keep listening. We're going to cut ahead just a little bit to one of my favorite parts of the book, real quick. If you are enjoying The Death of Earth, please drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know you are out there. You are currently in the running for a special copy of this book. A free copy of this book is what I meant to say. So if you are out there, drop us a line. Let us know that you are there. I see that a couple more people are watching right now. That's good. Definitely keep watching and listening while we walk you through the wonderful world of Daichi Hara. Daichi's world story continues now. The entrance door seemed to echo when it went shut. It was quiet around the grounds of the school. So quiet, all you could hear was the sound of the cherry blossom trees, their branches stirring in the wind. All the students left to go home already, save for Daichi, who was the last to leave. He hung his head and sighed as he walked down the sidewalk, the soft sound of the trees fading away behind him. When he reached his house, he walked upstairs to his room. Upon entering, he noticed the potted lily on his desk was beginning to droop. So he grabbed a cup of water from the bathroom sink and began pouring it into the soil. Once the cup was empty, he picked up the framed picture of his parents from the dresser and sat down on the edge of his bed. What do you guys think? He said, staring at the picture gloomily. Did I make a mistake with Haruka? Or was I right to speak my mind? And Izumi, why do I feel this way at the thought of her with Yunano? I wish you two were here. Suddenly, a shadow swept over the photo. Outside, the sun was setting unusually fast, and at the same time, the room began to grow cold. Daichi scrambled back on his bed and looked down. As the sun was setting, the shadow of his body grew bigger. Then Daichi looked at the potted lily. It had completely wilted. Out of the corner of his eye, Daichi saw something move. Then he put down the picture, and to his horror, there was a dark figure standing in the center of the room, on top of his shadow. Daichi dropped the picture and backed against the wall. Concealed in darkness, the figure appeared completely black. It was covered by a wavering cloak. However, there was no face visible through its hood. The only exception was its cold, white eyes, ominous like two headlights at the end of a dark tunnel. Greetings, Daichi Hara, it said in a cold, hollow voice. Daichi's eyes looked like they were about to bulge out of his head. He was too scared to move, afraid it might kill him if he tried escaping. But then he looked toward the window and found that there was no escape, for everything outside had disappeared. There were no buildings, cars, or trains visible through the glass window. There was only endless darkness. What the hell? Daichi gasped. Is this real? I assure you, Daichi Hara, I'm just as real as you. Daichi crawled slowly toward the edge of the bed. Who are you? Why are you here? I am the end of things. At the conclusion of your time on this plane, I am what awaits you. Daichi was left mystified, confused, and yet unsettled by the shadowy figure's response. Could you elaborate? The cloaked shadow opened its draped arms and said, I am the death of void. The figure then pointed to Daichi. I have chosen you, Daichi Hara, to become my new death. Death? You mean like the Grim Reaper? If that's how you conceptualize it, then yes. The death of void lowered his hand and stepped closer. The sole purpose of a death is to reduce the number of human souls in this world. Humans are a growing sickness that will one day consume all things dear. They can be complex in nature, yet simple to their core. While humans are capable of great deeds, they are also capable of unimaginable horrors. The world is swarming with humans, and the deaths exist to fix that. Wait, you saying I have to kill people? Yes. The number of human souls continues to increase, so the deaths exist to create a reversal. That is why I need you, Daichi Hara. Daichi crossed his eyebrows and scowled. No! I've heard enough. Daichi rose to his feet and confronted the death of void. Listen, he continued, the population is going to increase no matter what. I don't know what it's like wherever you're from, but in this world, that's what humans do. Almost every human's dream is to get married and have children of their own, to have a family. That's just how we are. The death of void's eyes narrowed into slits. Daichi gulped and shifted in place. He couldn't tell whether the death of void was angered or impressed by what he said. Before you so quickly refuse, Daichi Hara, at least let me offer my gift. Daichi raised an eyebrow. What gift? Inside his hood, the death of void revealed a set of sharp teeth and smiled. Immortality. Immortality? The death of void's mouth crawled back into the empty space it once was. Yes. Once you are made a death, your body will no longer age. Therefore, you cannot die. Does this mean I'll be invincible? Not entirely. Your body will still be vulnerable, but will ultimately mend any injury. There is, however, one critical exception. Only those who possess the power of death can kill you. So, there are other deaths then? Yes. There can only be 5 deaths at a time, 1 for each element. In order to kill in vast amounts, a death is given control of one of these 5 elements: fire, water, earth, wind, and void. The deaths then utilize their power to reduce the number of humans in this world. The deaths receive more power as they kill more people and can gain full mastery of their respective elements. Your element will be earth. The powers of a death are truly limitless. Tornadoes, tsunamis, wildfires, earthquakes, any natural disaster is at your disposal. Wait, so who are the other deaths? That I shall not reveal. The death of void began to increase in size, growing taller and taller until he touched the ceiling. Daichi trembled in his shoes and stumbled back. He was the smallest thing in the room compared to the godlike figure looking down on him. Listen to me, Daichi Hara, boomed the death of void, sounding much louder than before. Do not seek the other deaths. They can and will kill you. Daichi tilted his head back and responded. I understand. Then the death of void vanished. Daichi looked around. There was nothing there. For a moment, he thought the death of void had disappeared for good. But his hopes were crushed when he heard a voice whisper into his ear. Now this part is important, so listen closely. As a death, you must kill a total of 1,000 humans per month using your powers for the rest of your existence. Fail to meet this quota, you die. And that, my friends, is my favorite segment of The Death of Earth. So, Andrew, what'd you think of that?
Very riveting.
Right? Very riveting. I love the way Nick writes. I love the way he's able to get right to the point, and he's able to keep the focus on the core characters of interest, because there are a lot of characters, in my opinion, of serious interest in this series, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us in the comment section, what do you think when you hear Death of Void? If I walk up to you and tell you the Death of Void is in town, what runs through your head? So write that in the comment section. Andrew, when you hear the Death of Void, what do you think? What runs through your head in that moment?
The abyss, total darkness.
The abyss of total darkness. That's a good one. I think that there's something to that for darn sure. There's my file. I thought I'd lost it. So, Andrew, you've been waiting very patiently, and our friends are waiting so patiently to figure out how they can win their free copy of the book. Listen, if that didn't convince you that this book is a must-read, I don't know what will. But fortunately, if you're still not convinced, we have another segment to read to you, and I can tell you that segment is even more riveting. So, before we move on to that, Andrew, do I have your permission to give my gift to Mr. Georgel before you read?
Go for it.
Thank you, sir. So my gift is very simple. I have simply a toast. So here's what's going on, friends. I'm going to read my toast to Nick. Andrew is going to read his segment of the Death of Earth. And while all of that is happening, you guys got to be here listening very closely for how you can enter to win a free copy of this book. So ears open. Thank you for being here. And Andrew, you can go ahead and get set up while I read my toast. Nick, this is for you. Nicholas Georgel is amazing for two reasons, and neither of them came to him easy. The first is his unique creativity. I am not exaggerating when I say that The Death of Earth is one of the most uniquely creative books I have ever come across. Rather than rely on base, recognizable fantasy or anime tropes, Nick pulls us into a world where Grim Reapers have formed a complex faction full of heroes, villains, and everything caught between them. Daichi Hara isn't just a Reaper with a likable personality. He's a living child now contending with the responsibility to bring death to the people he doesn't even know. When Daichi is forced to confront this harsh reality in this tale, Nick pulls no punches. The same could be said for his story's hand-in-hand relationship with real-world history, as these eclectic characters make their appearances in the shadows of some well-known historical events. The Death of Earth is a story rich in its own lore and dense in its written content, and all in a modest word count that never feels like you're reading something bloated or overzealous. Nick expertly crafts a realm within his minimum page count that grips you, engages you, never lets you go, but never keeps you for too long. These are skills that many writers, including me, are still trying to learn. If you're interested in checking out a new writer on the block who not only writes stories but commands them, ensuring you a great experience, look no further than Nick. The second thing that's amazing about Nick is the man's heart. Nick is always ready with a helping hand, and this is what makes him an OTP director. Whether it's increasing your production value or media, keeping you company during broadcasts and events, or showing up to run tech for your wedding, Nick always has your back. We were fortunate to bring him on board, and we have yet to regret doing so. Those of you watching, we are offering you a free gift in Nick's offer tonight, so thank you for being part of the celebration. Here is a brief promo while Andrew gets set up. Thank you again, Nick. That was the wrong one. Let's try that again. Let's try that one more time. Was that you? Did you do that?
That was not me. My hands have been off the keyboard.
I'm watching you. I am watching you, sir. All right. So as a last thing, here is one of Nick's amazing videos that he made for us. This one was for the Barrington Harvest Film Festival. All right, all right. All you, buddy.
All right. So we got Chapter 6, A Game of Death. Daichi and Maddox stood across the street gazing at the immense structure that was the Langsberg Hotel, and with determined looks on their faces. The buildings rose so high it looked like it was touching the clouds. I really hope Izumi's not on the top floor, said Daichi. Me neither, Maddox agreed. But even if she is, we'll have to make it through. Remember, we need to be extremely careful once we enter. We can't let Miriko know that we're here, understand? He turned turned to look at Daichi, but Daichi was already running across the street towards the main entrance. Wait, hold on, Maddox shouted after him, but it was too late. Daichi burst through the front door and shouted at the top of his lungs, All right, Miriko, where are you hiding? Come on out. The lobby appeared to be on a high-class design featuring 10 colored walls with veins of ivory and large intricate fountain which sat in the center of the room upon a marble floor. There were several plants in the room that caught Daichi's eye. In pots on both ends of the front desk were birds of paradise flowers, tropical South African flowers, with rainbow leaves on the ends of their stems. However, despite the apparent luxuries, the hotel did not feel welcoming in the slightest. All the lights were off, making the room appear dim and unsettling. Daichi began to pace the lobby. Then Maddox burst through the front door and stood there eyeing Daichi coldly. What? Daichi asked with urgency. Are you just going to sit there, or are we going to do this? The expression on Maddox's face did not change the slightest with the surprise of Daichi. He expected Maddox to argue with him or make some sort of retort, but he didn't. Instead, Maddox walked forward and stopped in front of Daichi, examining the area. He's not in this room, said Maddox, but I definitely sense his presence. Then suddenly Maddox heard a static-filled voice from behind him. Ah, such determination. Quite a friend you got there, Maddox. Maddox turned around. The voice was coming from the intercom speaker on the wall, and despite the cackles from the static, Maddox recognized the voice instantly. Up on the 79th floor was the hotel security and surveillance office, and sitting in this room speaking on the intercom microphone was Miriko. The room was the size of an average hotel room. 3 of the 4 walls were filled with computer screens. There were a total of 81 monitors, one for each of the hotel's 80 floors, with a separate screen on the center. The screen was larger and was used for surveilling the lobby of the elevators. A desk was placed in front of the screen, and this was where Miriko sat. Miriko stared into the main screen, looking at Maddox with a smug look on his face. Then, with Miriko's eyes shifted to the boy. Who is this? He muttered to himself, rubbing his chin. A friend? Miriko grabbed the intercom microphone from the desk and spoke into it. You know, Maddox, there's no need to get angry at the boy. I know you were here the moment you stepped through the door. We have cameras on every floor. Maddox scanned the room just as Miriko said. On the upper corner of the wall was a security camera pointing towards the main entrance. Miriko noticed this on the screen and chuckled. Maddox was staring directly into the camera lens, as if he were looking into Miriko himself. Come now, Maddox, Miriko chuckled. You didn't think that I'd leave this hotel security system and to sit and gather dust now, did you? Please, you know me better than that. Daichi looked at the camera and scowled, the anger inside him building up. Hey, Miriko, Maddox shouted to the camera. Can you hear me from where you are? Yes, Miriko replied. The cameras record audio as well. All right, then, Maddox continued. Let's get one thing straight, Miriko. I hate you, and I'll never forgive you for the terrible things you've done. And I'd love nothing more than an opportunity to silence you myself. But that's not why I'm here. All I'm here for is the girl. She's alive, right? Don't worry, Miriko responded casually. Izumi Mori is very much alive. However, whether or not she'll remain so depends entirely on you. Maddox advanced towards the camera and yelled, "What's your reasoning for all this, Mirko? Did you kidnap Azumi just to lure me here? If that's the case, then here I am." Maddox opened his arms. "I am not here to play games," Maddox continued. "If you're doing all this just so you can fight me, then why don't you release her? I'm here. You've got what you want, don't you?" There was a long pause. Then Mariko spoke. "Actually, Maddox, you're mistaken. Izumi has a different role to play. You, on the other hand, are the least of my concerns. But I understand you think that I'm an unpredictable monster who does things for no reason. Well, that's where your deduction would be wrong, Detective. Everything I do is for a reason, including the people I kill or kidnap, for that matter. Now, you said that you're not here to play games, correct? Well, on the contrary, the very reason you two are here is to play a game. Very specific game, that is." Maddox's eyes narrowed. "What happens if we refuse?" he asked. Miracle smiled and moved the camera closer to his mouth. "Then the girl dies," he said. There was a long silence. All of a sudden, Mirko's seat began to vibrate. He placed his hands on the desk. It was shaking too, as if a train were approaching through the security room. All the monitor screens were full of static. Mirko rose from his chair and backed away. What on earth is going on here, he wondered. Is this an earthquake? Downstairs in the lobby, a green aura appeared around Daiichi and surrounded his body. At the same time, the floor began to rumble and shake violently. Maddox looked over at Daiichi. His eyes were shut and his fists were clenched. His teeth were gritted and he had an angry expression all on his face. An aura surrounding him spiked and glowed intensely. The lobby suffered heavy damage from the earthquake. The pots and plants next to the front desk tipped over, and bits of rubble fluttered from the ceiling. All the cracks on the floor led to where Daiichi stood. The seismic wave released from Daiichi affected not just the Lionsburg Hotel, but all of Tokyo as well. Citizens on the street scattered in a state of panic as the tremor shook the area. Maddox dodged one of the falling pieces of debris. Then he stopped to observe Daiichi. What the? He wondered. The force of the earthquake is intense, especially for a death, with no kills yet. I wonder, just how much power does he have? Daiichi stood there with his head down, tremors surging through the floor beneath him. Then he spoke to the camera. I swear if you as much lay a finger on her. He opened his eyes and lifted his head, looking directly at the camera, and shouted, I won't hesitate to make you my first kill. A smile formed across Mirko's face. Then he picked up the microphone and said, Ah, so you're the new Earth Death. I thought I recognized you from somewhere. You're Yoshida Hara's son, aren't you? You look very much like him. Daiichi's eyes narrowed and his aura spiked higher. So you're going to make me your first kill, huh? Mirko continued. Well, in that case, then go ahead, kid. I like to see you try. But if you want Izumi to be safe so badly, why don't you just stop the earthquake? She's been held here in the penthouse, which means that even if you succeed in bringing down the building, you also succeed in killing her. And we both don't want that now, do we? After Mirko said this, Daiichi's aura faded away. Then his aura vanished entirely and the tremor stopped. Up in the security room, the monitors returned to normal. Mirko sat in a chair and continued. As I was saying, Maddox, you two are here to play a game. And the reward for beating this game is Izumi's release. No tricks, you have my word. This is the best chance you two have. So what do you say? Maddox glanced at Daiichi, then responded, Please give us a minute to discuss this in private. Of course, Mirko obliged. Take your time. Maddox wrapped his arm around Daiichi's shoulder and turned away from the camera. I say we play his game, whispered Maddox. You guys might want to play the game if you guys want to win the prize. I don't know. Even if he beat his game, do you really believe that he'll release her? Listen, I know he may seem unpredictable, but trust me, Mirko's not the one who goes back on his word. Of course, that doesn't mean he'll make it easy for us. I could tell he thinks that we're going to fail. So doesn't that mean we should refuse? No, it means Mirko is full of himself. That always has been his downfall. He gives himself more credit than his enemies, and that'll give us an advantage. He's making Izumi the trophy because forces us to play his game, and two, he doesn't think that he'll have to release her because he's certain that we'll lose. And that's the flaw in his plan, because we're going to outsmart him and win. Now you sound conceited, Maddox sighed in annoyance. Now I say we play his game, Maddox continued. Besides, it's our safest option. Even if we refuse and try to reach the penthouse ourselves, she'll be dead by the time we get there. Fine, Daichi grumbled, but you better have a plan. Please, I'm a detective. Give me some credit. Mirko's voice was heard on the speaker again. So I presume you've made a decision. Yes, said Maddox. We've agreed to play your game. Wonderful, said Mirko. Now I shall explain the rules of the game. The main objective is to ascend all 80 floors of this hotel. Once you make it to the penthouse, you win the game. The only way you can ascend each floor is through the elevators. Each floor has 2 elevators next to each other. For the elevator on the left, you can only enter even numbers. And for the elevator on the right, you can only enter odd numbers. The number entered must be a single digit between 1 and 9. Maddox and Daichi looked to their left. Just as Mirko said, on the back wall next to the front desk were 2 elevators side by side. Now, Mirko continued, for each correct number you enter, the elevator will ascend that selected number of floors. So, for example, if you select 2, the elevator will ascend 2 floors, and so on. But here's the catch. You cannot use the same elevator twice. So for each choice, you must switch between even and odd numbered elevators, adding your numbers up continuously until you reach 80 floors. Daichi noted, that shouldn't be too difficult. There's more, said Mirko. Crap, Daichi grumbled, slouching his shoulders. Now here's the twist. For each selection, there will be 1 incorrect number, which will randomly change each time you switch between elevators. If you select the incorrect number, the elevator will send you back to that same number of floors. Also, an incorrect number will unleash a trap of mine, and you two will have to fight for your lives before you can continue on. And don't think you're safe just because you're deaf. I've devised these traps myself, and all of them contain a portion of my powers, which means they can indeed kill you. The only way a death can be killed is if they're killed by another death. Isn't that right, Maddox? Correct, Maddox replied. You may want to keep that rule in mind for yourself, Mirko. Mirko snorted. Just watch yourselves, you two. There are many secrets and surprises within those walls. Good luck. The intercom clicked off of the speaker, and there was silence. Everything seemed calm, and though Daichi and Maddox could already feel the tension in the air, Maddox pulled a cigarette from his pocket and lit it and turned to face the elevator. Well, he said as he took a puff, I guess we better get rolling. Yes, Daichi nodded, his face full with determination. Let's do this. The two stared at the elevator door solemnly, knowing Izumi's fate was in their hands now, as well as their own. Woo! And that was chapter 6 of The Death is Earth.
That was chapter 6. Oh my goodness. Life is Death. Oh, that's not the title anymore. The Death of Earth, Book of 5 Deaths by Nicholas Georgel. The action only heats up more and more. So, thank you for reading, Andrew. What was your favorite part of that chapter?
I think the banter back and forth between Mirko and Maddox, and I can't help but kind of smile at like the main characterness of Daichi, because that whole scene is like such a Naruto way to go.
Sure.
It's like, look, This is the plan. We're gonna go into the hotel. We're not gonna do anything to draw attention to ourselves. And then he turns around, and what happens? He does like the Naruto run into the hotel
Yep.
and immediately breaks cover.
Yeah, it's true. We got a experienced death and a bit of an inexperienced death who's still very recently a high school student, right? So that fits. And Cute Le Mans feels the exact same way. Thank you for watching. We may have a special guest any minute, folks. I don't know who it is. Oh my God! Hold on.
Hello, it's the man himself, the
There
writer.
he is,
Of all
Georgel. Welcome, welcome. Thank
Yep.
you for supplying us with your awesome book for this evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. It is my 27th birthday, and I wrote that when I think I started writing that when I was 16 or 17, believe it or not. And it, as you can tell, it's developed over the course of the years, and I just wanted to thank you guys for reading that.
Of course,
because
supplying it.
you know, being the one who wrote it, I'm kind of, I'm used to all the things that happen, but hearing it back to me again, it really was inspiring. And thank you guys for doing that. It was good to hear my scenes read aloud and get to go through it makes you realize that your writing worked. And good costuming for the death of Void there, sir.
I'm just saying, for when you make a movie, I got you. I got you covered.
Yeah, I died laughing when I was watching that. And thank you, Cute Le Mans, for the birthday wish. And
yes.
Thank you to everybody who is watching. Really appreciate it.
Yes, everybody watching, we are going to have a special giveaway in just a few moments. We are going to announce the rules for how you can win your free gift. And what are they winning, Mr. Georgel?
Going to be winning a free copy of the very book itself. Got Life is Death, The Death of Earth here. It'll be shipped right to you, physical copy. I mean, you could have an ebook if you want, but I assume having a physical copy is pretty nice. So, but yeah, it's available on Amazon. For anyone who's listening, you can buy it right on Amazon. Just search Nicholas Georgel or search, The Death of Earth, the book's title, and it is there for you to buy. Yeah, I was wondering, guys, that those scenes, what made you pick those out? I was curious. So I think there were 3 scenes. You had Haruka meeting Daichi, or first talking to Daichi, and then you had Daichi becoming a death, which is a very central scene. And then, Andrew, you chose the chapter where Daichi and Maddox blast into the hotel where Izumi, Daichi's best friend, has been kidnapped, and they first confront Mirko, the water death.
The water death, yes.
So what made you guys choose those?
Well, I originally chose what Andrew read. So when I found out we were reading the same chapter, I had to improvise a little bit. But which is interesting considering my personal favorite chapter, Nick, as you know, happens in the final chapter of the book. Unfortunately, I think that would just be too much of a spoiler to give away here.
I was a little nervous about that because I was like, oh man, is he gonna kind of give away the game here?
I wouldn't do you like that. Yeah, Andrew, how'd you pick?
It was simple. For me, one of the things that kind of stuck with me was that first sort of group meeting between the 3 of them. It's like this is the first time that all 3 of them are in a room together. And you kind of see firsthand the disdain between Mirko and Maddox. And you kind of see how Daichi kind of handles and like a situation where he's actually being trusted with something super important. And, you see the inexperience, you see the experience at play, but you also see the disdain. And I feel like that's like an important important set of dialogue between the 3 of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is very important. That scene, I took real good time to nail down because it is a very key scene when you think about it. And, they have that separation with the camera because Mirko is safe up in the penthouse. But I think one of my favorite parts of that scene is where Daichi activates an earthquake for the first time that he does in anger, because Mirko is feeling the vibration, like the hotel about to be damaged. And, but Mirko is like, bring it on. I'm ready for you. And Daichi is essentially saying the same thing. Like, well, I won't hesitate to make you my first kill, Mirko. And that's probably my favorite part of that chapter there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I agree with that. I agree that the whole hotel sequence, really, for me, when I was first reading it, I'm not really used to books going in that direction where they take us to a place where so much of the story can just start propelling forward. And once I got there, I was so hooked. I was done in almost a day.
Well, when you say the hotel sequence, that's like most of the book, actually. I mean, they spend almost the whole plot, like the entire plot of the book, which is to rescue Izumi from the water death Mirko. They're in that most of the book, So, I was wondering, was there a certain aspect of the hotel you enjoyed?
For me,
yeah. Since you said you liked the hotel sequence, yeah.
Well, I definitely liked what Andrew read. I definitely liked the beginning when they first come in and have their first confrontation with Mirko for all the reasons that Andrew brought up. But of course, there are, and you can see splashes, I think, of anime influence here, which is good. But there are definitely multiple points throughout the later hotel chapters where character arcs and story points start climaxing. There are things that are revealed, not everything, because we still got book 2 to get to, but we start kind of learning a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes. We see what some characters are concealing in terms of powers and intent and even their genealogy in some places. And, by the time when you enter this hotel, you're reading about a kid who's got earth powers. When you exit the hotel, you kind of have this like collective feeling of, okay, let's review. Let's review where we're at. And I think that is really cool. The hotel is very much a catalyst for bringing us deeper into the world of the depths, which is great. That's what a first book should do.
Yeah. I tried, and I got to say, after hearing it back, I am happy. I was happy to hear that.
After hearing it back, I nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it. No, I was, sometimes I worry, like, how's it going to be received? But you know what? As you said, and I'm glad you mentioned that, like, my writing you thought was smooth. I really tried my best on that to nail it down to main goal is make sure everything there is necessary and just keeps moving the story forward.
Absolutely.
In an exciting way.
The instructions are on the screen, folks. To claim your free gift, text the word earthquake to 856-404-4508. Yes. To earn your free gift, text earthquake to 856-404-4508. Nicholas Georgel, I have a heavy-hitting question for your birthday because all three of us are really growing as writers now. Daichi Hara is the death of Earth. His life has absolutely just expunged with what it was, kind of like when an earthquake opens up the ground, sucks in everything that was, and all of a sudden there is a monument built to the past. Is the earthquake a symbol of Daichi Hara himself or the progression of his life story? Tell us, Nick, what was it that made you choose Earth? Am I on to something?
No. Sorry.
Right. I'm off to something. That's good to know.
There is something to that, though. And this actually goes to throughout the book. You are on to something in the sense that Daichi, what I think about? Daichi is like this plant nerd. He's the plant nerd, as Yunano calls him. He's a horticulture expert. He plants. He's like a peaceful person. Daichi is, there's the phrase of it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
True.
And I think about that a little bit with Daichi because he is the gardener who has to become a warrior to save his best friend. But yet he wields such a destructive, abrasive, chaotic power that just destroys everything in its path. I mean, you're creating earthquakes, and Daichi, even though he's a bit rambunctious, he is at his core a peaceful person who loves his, his friends.
What I think works so well about that is that, you have Daichi, who's arguably, let's call him a gardener. You have Maddox and Mirko, who, in very different ways, because they have very different morals, are warriors, let's call them. But Daichi's power, his power to create this earthquake, is an unstoppable force that can swallow up the gardeners and the warriors all at the same time.
Yeah, and he has to deal with that. I will speak to the elements. Like when I was conceiving the story, a little bit of background info. I chose Earth partially not for the not just the thematic reasons, but I thought when it comes to like elemental stuff, take Avatar: The Last Airbender. It centers on wind user or air. I felt like Earth had not been used for like main characters very much. In Fairy Tale, Natsu uses fire, for example. There's some elemental stuff in there. I think the Leaf Village is called the Land of Fire. So there again, but like Earth characters were always kind of side characters, whereas like Toph in Avatar. So I wanted to make the main character an Earth wielder, and a lot of times water users are like healing stuff like that, like they're healing users. I decided to make the water death the full-on most brutal villain. Like you think water is like peaceful and gentle. Not in my book.
Yeah, until a hurricane.
And similar fire users are typically villainous, fire destruction. And yet Maddox is, this sort of rough and tumble American but he's really a good guy, and he's the mentor to Daichi throughout. So I kind of played with it a little bit. Like who got what in terms of the elements.
And what's so cool about that too is that if you think about it, in the winter, what keeps us warm?
Fire, warmth.
Oh, but when it burns too hot or you get too close to it, what happens?
Well, you get burned.
Right, you get burned. So it's like all of the elements, they they have to be taken at a certain temperature or in a certain amount or in a certain moderation, because too much of any element is actually almost always fatal when you think about it. So really, playing with any of the elements too much, it kind of like, sets up the deaths in a way. You know what I mean? Maddox can be a mentor, or he could be a, genocidal maniac. Who knows? Daichi is going to have to take that chance when he hops into bed with them,
Not literally. Maddox would not approve.
Yes.
Maddox, when I think about like take the horticulture thing I was talking about, Daichi's hobby, like he's a gardener, and he learned that from his father, who was the previous Earth Death. And I think that was sort of him and his father's way, like, that's the peaceful side of Earth. Whereas the destructive side is everything they had to contend with when it comes to having to kill 1,000 people per month using your Earth power. Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible thing. I mean, that's the setup. And
how'd you come up with the stakes?
The stakes. So do you mean the requirement in that a death must kill so a death must kill 1,000 people per month or else they die. But they're in return, if they do that, they live forever and never age. And the only way they can be killed by somebody else is by another death. They can't just be killed by normal means. I came up with those rules, well, really, because if you were just an Earth user, I mean, you could just not use your power and live your life peacefully. But there had to be that requirement. So, the idea is that you should never want to be a death ever. It's a terrible thing. Like, who would want to live forever to kill people? Well, actually, I can answer who. Mirko Fleischer, the water death. Terrible. Mirko is in a way the best death, but also the worst person or the worst human.
Right.
So
absolutely.
It's to have that contrast as to how do you carry out your immoral act morally.
Right.
That's a situation.
Great question. How would you carry out your immoral act morally? Great question. One of the many interesting questions brought up by the Death of Earth. If you like to be engaged as a reader, not only entertained, but left thinking after the fact, definitely pick up this new series. by Nicholas Georgel. Nick, you don't have to answer this. And Andrew, I'd love to get you in on the conversation. So this is going to be my last question for a little bit. You don't have to answer this, but I'm just curious, you know, as a lore enthusiast, when you say that if they don't meet the quota, they die, you know, what is it that kills them? Is it that the power itself kind of bubbles over and consumes them, or is it more that the death of Void finds out that they didn't do their job and he comes and kills them? Like, what is it that they have to fear if they don't get their kill count in?
Well, it's pretty simple. They just die, like the way I think of it. I actually don't think the death of Void, who turns them into deaths, he doesn't need to interfere at all. He just you know, if you fail, you like just your soul is just gone. Essentially your soul, think of it as, just goes into the void, and then the death of Void just goes to seek out his next poor soul to turn into a death. The idea is that they're expendable, really, in a way. I mean, obviously the death of Void, you can tell, chooses them for a reason. Like, he doesn't just pick anybody, because, you know, if he just picked anybody, they could just give up and not do the deed. But the death of Void chose them for a reason. And, you know, but it's very simple. You just die. You just sort of pass away, like, whoop, you're just gone if you do not meet the quota. That's at least how I see it. I mean, you don't really see that yet in the book, but you do see the deaths killing each other or try to kill each other. You know, because that's the other thing, is that you have those powers and you can take out your, you know, the opposing deaths if you need to.
What's so clever about it is that, you know, you're very careful not to make this a situation where, yo, the death of Void is hunting us all down. Why don't we all just get together and kill him? No, you're very careful to make it, nope, this is something that's out of our control. We signed up for this. If we don't do it, we're going to die. No amount of power will save us. It kind of happens automatically. Like, so, and then the story, you know, shows them segmenting into how each of them handles this problem differently. It's very layered with this very clever, you know, almost defense of the stakes, you know, where there's no easy way out of it, ever. There's no loophole, no easy way out that we know of yet, of course.
Yeah, well, Daichi and Maddox themselves would like to find a way out of it, and they will try. I will say that. But it's not going to be easy. There may be a way out, and they will try to get to the death of Void again, but it's not going to be an easy journey. Let me tell you that. There's going to be a lot of obstacles they'll have to get through.
That's what makes the story good. I'm just picturing the death of Void reading the paper now, and it's like Void chat room is now full. It's like, well, I guess it's time to find 4 new deaths now. All right, I'm a head out. All right, Andrew, you got to take the mic from me now. I'm getting out of control here.
Well, I think it's more or less a verbal contract, right? You're giving something to get something. So you're giving a piece of your soul in exchange for these abilities. And if you renege upon the verbal contract, that's when the consequences happen. So it's kind of like, in the way I always picture it, is more or less like Final Destination. It's like you're postponing your own death for this ability. And it's like, if you renege on your word, then the environment comes for you.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's a good summation there, Andrew.
Nick, we are very appreciative of everything you do for One True Promotion. I don't want the conversation to get too far away from that. Thank you for upscaling our media. Thank you for always being a friend and for showing up to important events, including life events. Like I said, you showed up to Carrie and I's wedding and ran some tech for us there. I mean, thank you for always being a helping hand. Our media does look good now as a result of your contributions, and we're very happy to have you here. That's why, you know, it's a breeze to put on a birthday stream for you. Andrew, you want to get in on that?
Yeah, you're a very considerate, respectful, and honorable person. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you. Alec knew you first. I kind of met you a little bit later, but You've become a very close friend of mine. You've, in all seriousness, helped me come out of hiding, so to speak. With everything that happened with the pandemic and not wanting to get people sick, I, kind of locked myself away at home, and you were one of the first people that kind of got me to lighten up and to go out again. So I definitely appreciate everything you've done for me. I appreciate everything you've done for everyone here. And I do look forward to all the stuff that we are going to do together as a group.
Yes, Andrew. Same goes to you, my friend. I mean, yeah, it's been a rough couple of years, but and you're working so hard on Sanguinary Song helped me get back into the swing of things too. The best, the great thing about both of you is I think we all inspire in each other, and I think that's been working out. And yeah, I really, really appreciate it, guys. These things make the birthdays more fun. It's great that we can inspire each other, and I'm just glad to be here. I'm just glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Yep, it's been a wild ride. For those of you who might be looking in for the first time, you are basically looking at the board of directors for One True Promotion. Andrew, what is One True Promotion?
So One True Promotion is a gathering of content creators who want to not only further each other's career, but also give back to the community as a whole. We think it's important to not only tell convincing and emotional tales, but also to uplift the next generation of authors, content creators, editors in our communities.
That's us. And who made the website? I'm pointing at you.
Oh, me?
I'm pointing at you. I'm doing this.
We did it together. Me and Alec. Oh. Well, I will say I did start the website on Wix. Yes, we put that together. Yep. The good old One True Promotion website. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah,
that's what's been so great about having you. Is that when it comes to I early on, Andrew and I decided he was going to take the lead on marketing and promotions. I was going to take the lead on broadcasting and live streaming. But when it comes to things like, building these websites, putting thumbnails on our YouTube videos, giving, visual media spots to our events, doing behind the scenes video work, you know what I mean? That's who the arts and media director is. And at first, that sort of role was completely unfilled. But the role really was invented, Nick, because we saw that you had, an aptitude for all that. Some of your earliest work at One True Promotion was just coming on the good old writing sprints and bringing that new visual content to the show. So, I mean, that has really, the role really was made in response to you. It was responsive collaboration. And I would say that to this day, the fact that you've upscaled it by helping us with website design and video and all that, I think that is marvelous, my friend. Simply marvelous.
Yep. I mean, I am a video guy by trade, and I'm glad I can have applied my skills to that, and the art too. I got an iPad a little while ago, and that's made things frankly even better to produce stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's going good. So yeah,
that's awesome.
It's good stuff.
Well,
so I was wondering, oh, sorry, no, you go ahead.
No, please speak your mind.
I was wondering, did you want to move to the giveaway yet? Or I had one idea. Do you want me to do any readings of anything, or
Sure,
not anything long?
The author, reading from the author himself.
What do you guys think of maybe reading a little bit of a sneak peek of book
Sneak
2?
peek. Sneak peek. I'm going to put that on the screen right now. Sneak peek. Time for a sneak peek, everybody. If you're still watching, I put the instructions for the giveaway on the board there, but nobody texted me yet. If you want a free book, text me that word.
Oh, good. Time. So we do have time then. Yeah. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna read the beginning of chapter 1 of book 2. I'm gonna read like the end of chapter 1, because chapter 1 there's a lot that happens, but the end of it has a key line that will tell you guys a bit. So to set the stage, The first chapter right now takes place in World War I, 1917. So here we go. And the person referred to as Maddox is not John Maddox as we know. It is John Maddox's father, just so you know. So the Maddox who is in this chapter is his father. Maddox is not here. So here we go. You guys have never even heard this before. John's conversation with Ben was interrupted when their staff sergeant burst into the bunker and shouted, "Private Jones, get to the eastern side and set up a gun post with the other station gunmen." Jones nodded and left the bunker. Then the sergeant turned to John and said, "Private Maddox, you come with me. You'll be accompanying the advancement squadron." With a pull of a lever, the tanks bellowed their engines and their caterpillar tracks crawled ahead. Inside the trenches, soldiers dashed to and fro, being ordered to various posts by their commanding officers. Maddox and his squadron each grabbed a Springfield rifle, then proceeded up and over the trench, keeping themselves behind the tanks. At first, all was still. Then, by the shout of their sergeant, the 6 tanks bellowed once again, and their caterpillar tracks rolled faster. From where they lay, stationed behind the sights of their machine guns, the Germans waited in trepidation as the clanking of the tanks drew near. An officer shouted something from behind, and an artillery shot was fired, followed by 4 more in rapid succession. The shells roared through the air at a dramatic pace, and as the first shell descended, the hearts of the American privates skipped a beat. The first shell hit far enough in front not to injure anybody. Then the second landed far behind. However, the third struck the front side of the 6th tank. The fourth made impact between the first and second tanks, and the 3 privates protecting them were blown into oblivion. Despite the casualties, the American squad had reached the halfway point between the 2 trenches. The Germans moved quickly to reload their artillery guns. Within seconds, they were loaded and ready to fire. However, this time the operators were more aware of the tank's speeds, and when they fired again, all 4 shells met their mark. Shards of metal exploded in all directions, followed by greater explosions from the ammunition. Only 2 tanks remained. Maddox looked ahead and saw the German trench was near. As the tanks drew closer, the German machine gunners opened fire upon the strafing vehicles and soldiers. Maddox looked to his left. A soldier near him had been shot dead. One by one, soldiers dropped dead in every direction. Those who remained were crowding behind the tanks for cover. However, Maddox knew they wouldn't get anywhere from hiding. Once he saw the nearest machine gunner reload for ammo, Maddox cocked his rifle, then climbed onto one of the tanks and took aim. The machine gunner had no time to react. When Maddox pulled the trigger, he landed a fatal headshot to the soldier's temple. The other soldiers began to shout, telling him he'll get killed if he stayed on the tank any longer. But Maddox didn't listen. Cocking his rifle, he took aim and shot down another machine gunner. Then again and again. The German officers began to lose their edge as more of their infantry men were killed, especially Captain Bosch of the 3rd Infantry Heavy Gunners Division, who stood with wide eyes as his own men tumbled from the top of the trenches. Every direction he turned, another one of his men was lying atop another. He couldn't bear it anymore. In a moment of desperation, Captain Bosch turned to a young private who arrived carrying an ammunition box, and he shouted, "You, use one of the guns and take out that Yank." The private didn't know how to respond. He just stared at the captain with confused wide eyes. For a moment, he remained still, clutching the box of ammunition. Then the captain shouted, "Now!" and he dropped the box and darted for the nearest gun. When the private looked down the barrel, a calmness swept over him. Everything seemed to move slowly as he swiveled the gun's position on Maddox. He placed his finger over the trigger, and his face turned from anxious to serious. His eyes became devoid of emotion, as if a subtle killer had awoken within him. He took a deep breath through his nose. Then his finger pulled against the cold piece of metal, and before Maddox could take aim against the new machine gunner, the bullet pierced through his chest, followed by another, then another, until the old man's body collapsed from the tank. His final moments began with the crack of his bones colliding with the bare earth. Then a dust swooped over where he lay, and he was gone. His final moments began, the private moved swiftly in taking out the rest of his targets. Swiveling the gun precisely, he shot each of the remaining American soldiers down until there were none left. But the foot soldiers were no longer the issue. The 2 tanks alone would be enough to breach their forces. And so they did. It was all over for the Germans. Quickly, Captain Bosch made haste to the situation by shouting, "Retreat! The battle is lost!" Bosch made way toward the private stationed at the gun and helped him up. "Let's go," he said. "That was excellent shooting. If I had the authority, I'd promote you to sergeant. What's your name?" The private's eyes drifted away. Then he looked back at the captain and answered, "Fleischer. Private Mirko Fleischer, sir." And that is it.
My. Very nice. I'm very excited for this next book. Very excited.
Yeah. How about that? The reveal of
that?
A young Mirko Fleischer as a private.
That is awesome. I love that. Nick, I love the way this series is continuing to build. I love that you're sticking with it. I'm very excited to see where it goes. And every time I hear something new, I only get more excited.
Yeah, I was telling you about this earlier. Yeah, this is sort of the prologue, or this is sort of a Mirko origin story chapter, where you see, and by the way, you saw he killed John Maddox Sr. The sort of the backstory is that John Maddox Sr. stepped in place of John Maddox to fight in the war, and unbeknownst to John Maddox or Mirko later in life, Mirko killed Maddox's father, and none of them even know. Neither of them know that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. This has been awesome. It's been awesome to pay tribute to you, sir, and it's been awesome to kind of just use it as an excuse, really. Just dive into the series a little bit more, rip out some secrets, do some sneak peeks, give people the chance to read more.
Yeah. Well, technically, I didn't spoil anything too much. That's why I didn't go into the whole Daichi and Maddox section, because the prologue stuff, that's where the interesting sort of stuff is.
Yeah. When I say secrets, I mean like stuff you don't immediately see in the promos.
Exactly.
Like we get into the book club a little bit here on the streams. And
now there was a much longer chapter. I apologize that I couldn't cover the whole thing, but it just so much leads up to that point that it just we would have been here for like another hour. So little taste though.
Absolutely. Yep. If that whet your appetite, text earthquake to 856-404-4508. What will happen then is you will only have to buy one. You will get one for free, and you only have to buy book 2. So I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty darn good deal. So, Nick, this is your birthday stream. How you feel about it so far?
I'm feeling great, honestly. And cool. I'm feeling. Oh, there's Andrew again. Hello.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah,
you're muted.
Hello and goodbye.
Come back unmuted. Say it again.
Do it. Text the number.
Yes.
You want to.
Yes, do it. Text the number. I love that.
Do it.
Andrew, you're hired. That's going to be your job from now on. That was perfect. Yep. I'm going to walk around with that on my phone. Yes.
Yes.
Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. If you're watching on YouTube at One True Promotion, hit that little subscribe button, because we have all kinds of broadcasts that we do, new shows coming out, and we're still doing Drop a Line, which can give you your first ever free interview with One True Promotion. So your chances of getting one are higher if you subscribe, because we will want to reward you for contributing to our community. So please just click that little button.
Free stuff!
Free stuff. Who doesn't love free stuff? Nicholas, my friend, this is your night. Is there anything else you'd like to cover this evening? Anything on your mind you want to get off your chest? Any projects on the horizon you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I will say for those who are watching, I have a new art piece. Should we share that out? It's a little birthday drawing that I didn't get a chance to finish fully yet, but I do have that. So give me 1 second. I was drawing this. It's me and my my characters.
Look at that. Look at that. All right, Nick. So now that we're together on screen, let's talk about it. Who's who?
So going on the left, there's John Maddox smoking a cigarette right there. Next to me, putting a hat on my head, is Ayami. She's also known as the sun heart sky hair girl. That she hasn't been colored in yet. You'll recognize her more once I do that. But yeah, that's Ayami putting a hat on my head, which is nice. And there's me in the center. sitting there all happy. Daichi's next to me, the main character of the book you were reading.
Just chilling out with Daichi. No
Yep,
big
and
deal.
Daichi looks like he's got a cake for me, which
He
is great.
does.
And next to him there is Izumi Mori, and she just looks like she's having a good time, laughing and happy to be there. And we're all at a table, and yep, this is the artistic version of my birthday, I guess, in a funny sort of way.
Sure is.
I
Sure
I,
is. That's
I
a
sort
darn
of
good
did it.
birthday party.
Yeah, I did it as a joke, kind of drawing this, like just for
Uh-huh.
fun. But sometimes those are where the best drawings come from, right? Just doing stuff for fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The best art can come from that. So, what are your hopes for the artwork and the series and all that going forward?
Um, well, with art, I just want to continue hopefully challenging myself. I mean, in this drawing was even a good example of drawing a table in perspective with a cake and props like the hat, things like that. And also I this, believe it or not, Alec, this drawing was a bit of a challenge because I had to
Oh, I
draw
believe it.
so many characters at once. Like usually I'm just drawing as, like one character in a portrait, but this one I'm drawing like five at a table.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just continually challenge myself and apply it to what I do. Drawing characters from my series as well as your guys's.
Yep.
If you check my Instagram, I have a nice illustration of Richard Renovan,
That's right.
the great main
Unfortunately.
character of the Calipar, which is coming
Yes.
soon. And I also drew haven't colored her in yet, but I also drew Christina, the
Yes.
main
Yes. Yes.
character of a Sanguinary Song. So
For the last
hopefully,
birthday stream.
yeah, so
Very
hopefully I
nice.
can gradually build a bit of a library of these characters because
Awesome.
Izumi's design, as you can tell, I only designed her recently. I
Mhm.
hadn't ever drawn her before, but Maddox and Daichi, I've had their designs down for kind of a good while, especially Maddox. I mean, Maddox looks, he's always smoking, always.
Always. Always, always, always. Maddox, you got a smoking problem. But I guess when you're the literal incarnate of fire, you can get away with it.
Well, here's the thing, as he says, it can't kill him. I
Yep.
mean, he's a death, so he just fries his lungs because no matter how bad they get, he's not going to die because he's a
Nope.
death.
Nope. I got me some fried lungs
Al-
over here.
Although
Move along.
if he lights it with his own power, does that mean Maddox could kill himself since he's a death, and the
Uh,
smoke could be his death power? Well,
loopholes.
hopefully that's not a loophole. Let's just
Loopholes. We gotta exploit those loopholes, right?
Actually, I can answer that. No, it wouldn't kill him because the cigarette is not his power. He'll use his power to light it, like snap his fingers and light it, but the cigarette itself wouldn't kill him because, like, it's not like his power is inside of it. So the smoke is, that's not going to kill him, although he is kind of playing with fire, literally, in
Literally,
this case. So,
figuratively, literally, philosophically, playing with fire. That's Mr. Maddox.
yep.
So we are coming on the end of the stream now. Nicholas, is there anything else you would like to share with us, or do you have any questions for the audience or ourselves?
Well, I guess I could ask the audience if you want to comment, what were some of the favorite things that you've
Yes.
heard? A lot's been read. Give me some feedback. What do you
Yes,
think? What do you think of my stories? What do you think of my art?
that's right.
Just basic questions. And if you do like my stuff, you can follow me on at Nicholas Georgel author. It's scrolling across the screen at the bottom here.
There you go.
That's Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram, but obviously I'm active on YouTube here with our channel and whatnot. So
That's right.
yeah, just follow me at Nicholas Georgel author, and also just keep track of One True Promotion, the group,
There you
because
go.
One True
Perfect.
Promotion is all of us, and you can follow all of our
Yeah.
stuff and what we're up to.
All of us and all of you. You want an interview on Drop a Line, much like this?
Yes.
Definitely reach out to us and we will get you on the calendar. I direct Drop a Line and many of our other broadcasts. So get in contact with me and I will bring you into the One True Promotion family to talk about your amazing art that you do. This has been awesome, Nick. Listen, I was glad we could get together and that we could congratulate you and thank you and show you our appreciation for everything that you do here. I think it's important And I like that we do it live so that people can see we're not just a bunch of promoters who promote and go home, but we actually do get together, roll the camera, and hang out and talk about the great artwork and stories that we produce. So it's been awesome to have you here. And it's been awesome to say happy birthday, my man.
Oh, thank you very much, my friend. You've made it a more awesome birthday than other birthdays in the past. Not to say I've had bad birthdays, but there's nothing better than spending it with good friends and, you know, having good times and chatting. It's nothing can beat that.
Absolutely. And if Andrew was here right now, we know he would say, please subscribe.
Yes. Please subscribe to One True Promotion.
Oh, there he is.
Subscribe.
There you go. All right. Well, that about concludes our birthday stream, everybody. So thank you again for being here. Happy birthday, Nick. And if you are interested in the death of Earth, then please do check out this amazing artist slash author. Author slash artist slash filmmaker. Let's do one more recap of who Nick is. Nick, happy birthday, my man. For more amazing content from One True Promotion, please keep your eyes on the channel. Please watch Drop a Line. Please follow Drop a Line on Facebook. Please keep an eye out for all three of us and our upcoming releases. We would like to thank you for coming to the birthday stream for Nicholas Georgel. I'm Alec Pangaea, Director of Broadcasting.
Andrew Bass, Chief Operating Officer.
Nicholas Georgel, Director of Arts and Media.
And we will see you on the next stream. Thank you, everybody.